Speaking of a wide berth, that is a terrible transition, Connor Rogers.
Yeah, were you going to Jimmy Garoppolo?
Okay. Wide berth?
Yeah, so we got a lot of headlines to get through because we are in the middle.
Well, wide berth is what all the Warriors cheerleaders come over to Jimmy Garoppolo. They gave him a wide berth, like there was just a very, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you found it. We got a lot of headlines to get through. We are in the heat.
Listen, we're award winning. It doesn't matter
It doesn't
what we
matter
do now.
anymore. NFL
We've
free
already got the
agency.
title.
Starting off with the move at the top, the Raiders signed Jimmy Garoppolo to a 3-year, $67.5 million contract.
Yeah.
Along with him, Josh McDaniels not done bringing former Patriots over to Vegas. Jacoby Myers to a 3-year contract worth up to $33 million. Guys, Barry, we'll start with you. Putting aside those two, and we'll talk about them, but I think the first thought is, what is the impact on Davante Adams, the biggest fantasy star here in Vegas?
I don't think there's a significant one. He's still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it is Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk or at moments George Kittle, Jimmy Garoppolo is a good enough quarterback to support fantasy-relevant superstars. We've seen it in San Francisco. Look, he's really accurate. I believe he was top 6 in completion percentage last year. He's top 5 over the last 2 years, right? He's pretty efficient. Again, Shanahan calls such a good game. You know, it's just short throws, get him in space, yards after the catch. But my expectation here is that that's what you'll do with Davante Adams. Now, he didn't throw deep as much, Garoppolo, in San Francisco because that offense didn't require him to. So who knows, maybe there's a little bit less, deep balls to Davante Adams. But am I still drafting Davante Adams as one of the first wide receivers off the board? Of course I am. I don't think there's much downgrade from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo from a skill standpoint, maybe a slight one, but I don't think a significant one. And I certainly don't think as it relates to what we care about, which is Davante Adams' fantasy value.
Yeah. Couldn't hate this move more, really, for the Raiders. I just think they've kind of clipped their shoes into the peloton of mediocrity. Just what does this do for the team? Like, they're not Jimmy Garoppolo away from competing for the AFC West, where they're plus 1,400 to win a division that has Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in it, and a soon-to-be resurgent Russell Wilson. And I get it. I mean, they still have Davante Adams, Josh Jacobs, Max Crosby on the other side. Like, they have big names, but he's not going anywhere. They need to draft someone, and they need to. I mean, they should be really trading Davante Adams, right? Like, teams just not going.
It does feel like a team without kind of a direction, right? Because they basically pushed Derek. It's sort of like the tweet that we read on the last show, right? Which is like they gave up all this capital to bring in Davante Adams, right? And then they didn't pick up Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option, and then they had to franchise tag him, right? And then they pushed Derek Carr out the door, but right, they bring in Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, you understood if they basically said, we're getting rid of Carr, we're going to let Jacobs walk, and we're going to go with a youth movement. We're going to re-sign Stidham for, we'll talk about this in a little minute, but it wouldn't have cost that much to bring back Stidham and just say, hey, we're going to go with a youth movement, and we're going to tear it down and try to start from scratch. But it does seem like kind of this team that's in no man's land. But for our purposes, Jay Croucher, I understand you hate the move for the Raiders, and I don't disagree with your take. But do you hate the move for Davante Adams' fantasy value? I don't. He's still going to be the focal point of this of Josh McDaniels' passing offense. He's still going to get a massive target share.
Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolo is the new kind of caricature of Kirk Cousins, of the average quarterback in the NFL who gets you where you need to go and has no real ceiling, and also a pretty high floor. And so I think for Davante, for Darren Waller, I think that their offense will be fine. The defense will be really bad, and they'll probably go 7-10. But I think that they will have decent production on offense, and Jimmy can get the ball where it needs to go.
I might take the under on 7 wins, but I understand your point. I mean, I think to the extent that we care about the fantasy, look, for Garoppolo, he's not fantasy relevant, right? Last year he was quarterback 19 on a points per game basis. Derek Carr in the same offense last year, quarterback 20 on a points per game basis. He is a low-end QB2 that in the right matchup, if it's a bad bye week, if you're streaming, if you've got bad injuries, that you might plug and play. But he doesn't really run. It probably is still going to be a run-heavy offense given that they brought back Jacobs, and we saw what they did last year. So Garoppolo is fine for the fantasy-relevant players, but he's not a fantasy consideration himself. He's a low-end QB2. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay, respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.